Hey there, Longtime Toolies. It's Kyle. I am back, and we have a new video for you today. Obviously, it's going to be tuning up a table saw. Real simple video, nothing too complicated, but something we all got to do every once in a while to make sure our table saws are running. Or if you get a new saw, this is what you want to check on before you start cutting wood, or else, honestly, you can fuck yourself up on a table saw. Not just on the blade, but if something's out of square, you'll get kickback. And look where the table's at. You don't want to get kickback right there. So we're going to go over a few simple tips, little ways to tune this up, make sure everything's running well. First, unplug your fucking table saw. Don't plug it in. Unplug it. Don't be dumb. Unplug it. It doesn't matter if you're not anywhere near the switch. Unplug your table saw. You'll cut your fingers off, and you'll come crying back to me. He's like, Kyle, I didn't unplug my saw. Well, I told you. You were warned. Don't be an idiot. Number two, make sure it's clean. If it's brand new, it'll obviously be clean. But if you've been cutting wood on it for a while, like I have, it's a couple years old, you want to keep it clean. Really, the easiest way to clean it up, kind of lazy, I just get an air compressor. Blow out all the dust. Make sure everything's nice and clean in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a tool. It's in a shop. It's going to be dirty. But if you're tuning it up, you want it to be clean because you got to be able to get to stuff, right? Number three, make sure you have all your tools. You don't need a whole lot to tune up a table saw. I've got just a speed square, real simple, just a 7-inch speed square. And then a combination square. This one's 6 inches, a nice combination square. We will use these together and we will also use them independently. I also have a brass brush. This I use to clean the blade. Before we really get started, blades get a lot of gunk in them. You can take them off, you can soak them in different solution. Me, I got a nice blade on here, so I like to keep it clean. I just run the brass brush along the teeth. Nothing crazy. Just get the sap out of it, because if you cut a lot of pine, like a lot of cheap wood, you can get nice pine too. I don't know. You'll get a lot of sap in there. So real simple. You just want to keep it nice and clean. I won't do the whole thing. That's that. So we have a clean saw. It is unplugged. We just cleaned the blade. Let's get going on squaring it up. All right. First thing we want to do, we want to square the blade top to bottom. So first thing we got to do, we got to make sure that little guy is on zero. Each saw has something different, but if you're going to square it to this, and the best way is just push this thing as far as you can, you want it to be on 0. All right, that's the first thing. Now we're going to square the blade up. So that's pretty simple. All right, we got my combination, my speed square. Let's see if we can get a nice shot. Place it flat on the table there. You see, you want to get so that the blade, the teeth, don't hit, so it goes flat. You see that? Just like that. All right, so we leave it there. We come back here. Let's take a look. You can see a little bit of daylight in there, but it does look uniform from top to bottom. Not too bad. Not too bad. So that's good. If it wasn't, there are bolts and all sorts of things under here where you can loosen them and adjust it. Or you can just adjust it from right there. But remember, we set that to 0. We want that to be 0. So we should probably adjust this if it was out of sync. So that's good. Next up, we are going to measure the blade and make sure it is perfectly square to where the fence would be. Now you can square the fence up, that's no problem, but you want to make sure that if you're using the miter, the little miter gauge, this little guy, you put it in this slot here, probably gonna bump you. Put it in there. You want to make sure that whatever workpiece you have in this is going to be square to the blade. All right, so this is why we're doing this right now. Pretty important. The miter thing, pretty useful. So we have the the speed square and the combination square. So you're going to loosen this up and press it so that it's gently touching the blade. You want it to be flush on the blade. Get it tightened. Now we got this, everything is set. We're pulling back on it so that it stays square. Let's get you so that you can see it a little bit better. How's that? That's pretty good. Good job, Kyle. So you're pulling back on it a little bit to yourself, just making sure everything's square, and we run it down the blade. Keep an eye on it. It should clear the blade, and you should be able to go back. All checking out that distance. And that's pretty flush. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right, so we have a square blade going up and down and going side to side. We have it all nice, it's nice and zeroed out, and from the slots on the side to the blade is perfectly square. We have a pretty nice setup on the table saw now. So what this will do when you're running wood through, if it's bowed this way or that way, you can get it stuck, or it'll get trapped and kick back at you. And that, I mean, you can see pictures. I'll put one in. Hey Kyle, put in a picture of a piece of wood that got thrown back out of a saw and stabbed into a wall like it was in a fucking hurricane or something. So we got all this. You might notice I don't have that little plate down. That's the next thing you want to do. You got your plate. Now, if you have a shitty saw like mine, the plate doesn't sit flush. But we're going to fix that. I'm going to make my own. So we're going to put this back in. Now, if you did have a plate, you would want the plate to sit, or if you had a better plate, you would want the plate to sit flush. It should sit flush up on here so that when you're running wood through, it doesn't get trapped on the corner like mine does every single goddamn time. So the way I beat that is I have a little crosscut sled, not a big deal. If you're running plywood through, it probably won't get trapped anyways. So we can move on from that now. Okay, the fence. Now, you see how mine is. I hate my fucking fence, by the way, because it does this. You see that? No good. That is no good. So if you have a fence where there's only 2 points or 1 point that you lock it down from, you want to make sure that your fence is square to your blade too. On nicer saws, there's places where you can adjust that. On this one, there's really not. So, lock my blade down, or lock my fence, actually, let's set it. Let's set it to 3.5 inches. See that shit? All right, so there's the fence. So you want to make sure your fence is square too. Whenever you do a cut, it helps to measure from the front of the blade, making sure that the end of your tape measure is not touching the teeth. That'll bump it out a little bit. So from the front of the blade, see we got a pretty good 3.5 there. And the back of the blade, let's take our shitty push stick out. And the back of the blade, you want to make sure it's square all the way through. It doesn't matter if this is nice and square, if the saw is nice and square, if your fence isn't square to the blade. So make sure you do that too when you're making a cut. It's a good idea just to check it every now and again. Like I said though, I don't have a nice fence, so mine I have to adjust from the back too. Piece of shit. So that's all we got for today. Nice simple video, tuning up a table saw. Good idea, you know, every couple weeks when you pull out the table saw, just stick your speed square up against the blade, see if it's square again. Just keep it nice and smooth. It'll save you a lot of time. And the way wood prices are now, a lot of money, because you won't be screwing up cuts like you may have been. That's all we got. Make sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Longtime Toolies, at Pinterest at Longtime Toolies, and keep following us on YouTube. Check out our YouTube. We got a lot of videos up there. We'll have a lot more coming. And that's all we have for today, Toolies.